The best part about working on Into Badlands is making a show that we know is different than anything out there, and being kind of original, because it's a weird show. It's a mashup of a whole bunch of different genres. But our main goal was to bring like Hong Kong style action to American television, and I think we did that obviously in season 1 really well. And so what's really fun working on it is to be able to do that. Is just to constantly be shocking and amazing people like with every episode, and that's a fun thing, especially when I've been doing this for like 20 years now, and you kind of not get jaded, but you do genres and they're kind of the same and people have seen it before. And when you do something really special and original and you build up a cool fan base and a really different, diverse fan base that you've never really had before, it's really interesting, exciting, and fun, and it makes it much more, you just get more passionate about working on it. Yeah, I think that was our main goal, and I think that's still one of our main focuses. But of course, we're still trying to make a good show, and an original show at that. So it being a genre mashup, so you've got kind of cowboy elements, you've got martial arts movie elements, you've got the steampunk stuff, you have this post-apocalyptic thing, and it's all jammed together. We've seen all these things separately before, but not jammed together. And I would say first season we were getting our leggings, and it didn't necessarily click together, but I think season 2 we figured out what the mistakes were and we moved on from there, and I think we were able to up the game a lot this season. So that was a really exciting part about doing it. But I think, yeah, what was the original question again? Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part. That's the really fun part, is that we know when we're doing all this stuff that most people haven't seen this kind of stuff on television before. I mean, there's, of course, people who watch the wuxia films and have been watching that all their whole lives, but I think there's people in Middle America that have never seen this in their lives entirely. And so to be able to blow their minds with this kind of like really dynamic hyper action is cool, it's fun. I think one of them, we were very limited with our location because we were in New Orleans. And so the show really wants to be really epic and grand because we were talking about world building, right? And we're talking about a world that's inside the Badlands and a world outside the Badlands. But because we were in New Orleans, it was very limiting in terms of the geography, because everywhere you go is just fucking swamp and more swamp, right? It's just, there's nothing else, right? There's no mountains, there's nothing. And so moving our whole crew to Ireland this season changed everything for us. So because you have mountains, forests, rivers, everything within like half an hour of our base camp. So you can get a whole bunch of different looks and you can make it more epic. We can do much wider cinematography. What am I trying to say? We can do much wider what is the word I'm trying to get out? Much grander shots with the locations we have and not limited by the locations. So that was one thing. I think with costume design, we really upped the game also this season. I think last season they weren't really sure what it was we were going for. This season they really knew what they were going for. And then also character development and story this season. I think the writers now, I always knew what the show was, but I think the writers kind of wasn't sure. And so now this season, by breaking up the characters, separating them, we have multiple storylines, but all heading towards one main goal, which is you feel the momentum of the show is going to a certain climax for the end of the season. That helped also with the storytelling a lot. I think a lot of the times last season there was characters that weren't fully developed or fully fleshed out. I think this season we do that all with all the characters. Plus having 10 episodes makes it much more room to do that stuff. No, I mean, it was always meant to be a journey for Sunny, this character. It's very loosely based on Journey to the West, and what we mean by loosely based is that the Monkey King is given this mission to take the Buddhist scriptures from India to China, right? And it's not just about that, it's about this journey that he goes through on the way with this group of people that they're in charge of doing this. And each kind of bit of adversity that they run into is a metaphor for life. And it's a journey that by the end of it, the Monkey King himself changes. In the beginning he's a petulant, rebellious character, and by the end he becomes enlightened. And so what we wanted to have that same kind of character arc for Sunny. And so the first season, unlike the Monkey King, Sunny's more of a cold-hearted killer with not much feelings. But the fact that he is now, his girlfriend is about to have a baby, that changes everything, because all he's done in his whole life is take lives. And suddenly he's created a life, and that's kind of emotionally changed something in his head. And so because of that starts this little seed that creates this journey path for him. And this season it's all about getting back into the Badlands. He's been taken out of the Badlands, getting back into the Badlands, finding his girl who's been kidnapped, basically, and the baby that might have been born. He doesn't even know if it's been born yet. And so to make the family union, to get away from what he was, being a cold-hearted killer, and becoming, a better person, and can he even achieve that? And so that's really kind of the change for Sonny. And I think last season was a setup of what Sonny was like before, and this season is kind of, you see the change happen within him. Totally, and I think the writers, maybe even because of my personal life, know that and put that element in there. But yeah, if I didn't have a kid, I don't know if I would be able to play the character with as much emotion as I would if it was 10 years ago. The idea of having a kid versus actually having a real kid and dealing with that every day, and the fact that I would literally kill for my kid. I mean, this is me, Daniel Wu, saying this. I would, I've done certain things that happened with her that I've just done stuff where that's not typically in my personality, but you just do it because you have a family, and it's as a male in the family, you're the protector, right? And so you naturally, these things happen to you, and you wouldn't be able to recreate that necessarily as an actor on your own. There's a true feeling of that. So I've done, I started doing Shaolin Kung Fu when I was 11, and that was because when I was 7 I saw Shaolin Temple, which is Jet Li's first movie, right? And that blew me out of the water. I remember my grandfather took me to Chinatown, the Great Star Theater in San Francisco, and he was like, all that stuff you've been watching before, I used to watch Kung Fu theater every Sunday when I was a kid. And he's like, that stuff was fake. This is the real deal. And so I saw it. There's, the amazing thing in that movie is there's this training scene where they're doing all these weapons and all this stuff, and I remember that scene very clearly. It was that's what I want to do. They're doing praying mantis. They're doing they're all different styles within this 5-minute scene, and so I was a hyperactive kid. My parents didn't want me to. They thought I would get in fights and stuff at school, so they didn't want me to learn. And it wasn't until my mom found my first teacher, Y.C. Chang in El Cerrito, California, and he became my first teacher. He wasn't just a Kung Fu teacher. He was a Qigong master, Tai Chi master, Chinese brush painter, calligrapher, Chinese medicine doctor, as well as lawyer. So he was a very well-rounded Renaissance man, And so I think that really kind of pulled me into learning martial arts and learning more about my culture, I think. So I started training with him. I trained with him for many years, and then he wasn't into competition at all, and I wanted, at 17, 18, you want to prove yourself. So I wanted to start competing, and so then I switched over. I kept training with him, but I also trained with another coach, a wushu coach. I switched over to wushu with a coach named Zhang Hongmei, and she was, women's national champion when Jet Li was men's national champion, and she married an American, Philip Wong, who's also a really good wushu practitioner, was on the U.S. team. They started a school, and so I started training with them for many years, and so that was the basis, the foundation for my martial arts. And then over time, I've learned boxing, Muay Thai, and a bunch of other things, Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu a little bit, but I'm more of a striker, so I'm not really a grappling type of guy. But yeah, I mean, martial arts has been a part of my life, whether it's been in the movie business or not. And in fact, when I first started the movie business, I actually tried to keep it out of my career because I didn't want to be pigeonholed as just a martial arts guy. And then eventually, worked it back in. And so there we have with Badlands, it's back in my life. It actually really depends on your teacher, because I think now with MMA and UFC and all that stuff, people totally just drop the spirituality side of martial arts completely. It's all about training and the physical side and winning. And that's not what martial arts is about at all. It's about spiritual cultivation, right? And so the philosophy all goes along with that. And I got the philosophy side really early on because my teacher, my first teacher, Y.C. Chang, he was a devout Buddhist. He studied a lot of that philosophy, and so every Sunday he would give lectures on martial arts philosophy, on health, because he was a Chinese, practiced traditional Chinese medicine as well. So what to eat in different seasons, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. How to do tea ceremonies, everything. I mean, everything that was culturally related to the martial arts, he would teach us. And so that's where I got that. And then I also got, when I was 14, I got into the Carlos Castaneda books, those books, which are not anything to do with martial arts, but the teacher-student relationship and spiritual journey was I saw the parallels between that and martial arts, and so then that was something that I got into. And then funny enough, that's stuff that we're actually using in Badlands now. The things that the character MK goes through in the training and dealing with his dark chi and all that stuff is ideas that I took from way back then, like those books and stuff when I was studying martial arts as a young kid. And put it into it. Because one of our goals is like, yes, it's really fucking cool that we kick a lot of ass on this show and there's blood flying everywhere and blah, blah, blah. But we also want to keep the spiritual element in there as well. We want to kind of undo what MMA is doing, which is just showing the fighting. So the spiritual journeys that the characters go through go in tandem or parallel with their martial arts journey as well. And it may be not as obvious, but it's there in the subtext. So at least responsibly, we've been doing that. But I think it's really important. I think it's important for people to understand martial arts that it's a whole system, and it's not just one-sided thing. It's not just about fighting. When we pitched it to them, that's what they wanted. They didn't want just the straight-up violence. They wanted it to be tied into something cultural or spiritual or whatever, to give it some substance, right? Because if you want a successful show, it can't just be cool fight scenes and then really crappy drama in between. It's like porn otherwise, right? You kind of skip forward, skip all the drama, and then just watch the fight scenes or the action scenes. And so we want to make a really well-balanced show, and in order to do that, you have to tie in that spirituality element into the storytelling. It's totally different. Like the only way we knew we could pull this off was by bringing in a Hong Kong team. So Master Didi, who's our choreographer, he worked on hundreds of great classic Chinese films. But then he's known in the West for working on Matrix, Crouching Tiger, and all that other stuff. And so he has a lot of experience working in East and West, right? Then he brought his team of stuntmen in, and then we have our action director, Stephen Fung, who directed all the visuals of the fight scenes. So the whole system is really a Hong Kong system that we plugged into the American television system. And the reason why it has to be a Hong Kong system is because we do it fast, right? Americans, especially shooting action, is a bit slow. But what they do is you do the choreography, then the DP is completely separately does the coverage, right? So you got to do the same scene, the same whole full action scene over and over and over again while he does all the coverage. And then the editor then assembles the fight in the editing room. And it's a lot of the times it may not even correlate properly. What you're seeing on screen is actually not the choreography. It's been re-edited and put in a way. Where you do the completely opposite. Every shot is a specific shot made for that bit of action, that sequence of action. And we go through the fight chronologically. So we go from shot to shot to shot to shot, like it's a storyboard, but we have no storyboards. And it's all designed for that specific shot. So there's no switching of shots. It has to be that way. And then in fact, we edit it ourselves and then turn it into the editor as a reference for them to how to assemble it, basically. And so we do the whole package, basically. Every fight scene is done by our fight unit. Then we hand it off to the main unit to plug into the rest of the story. Yeah, I think they're comparable, but I mean, we have a lot less time to do them. Each episode is, we're given 8 days to shoot, so that's the drama and the action, right? And some episodes, like the first episode of this season, there's like four fight scenes, right? And so we have to balance it over the longer period of time, but usually you have to get all that action in within the 8 days, and that's a very short amount of time. For most Western action shows, they probably spend a day on an action scene, right? We spend at least 2 to 3 days, up to 6 to 8 days, depending on the scene, how big it is and how involved it is. But that's still not enough time. Like for example, last season we had a rain fight that we homaged Grandmaster. And so the Grandmaster, they have a rain fight in the very beginning of the film. It took them 30 days to shoot that, and we did ours in 6 days, right? So we are definitely trying to emulate the Hong Kong style, but in a very, very compressed American TV schedule. And that's, again, reiterating, the only way to do it is with someone like Master Didi, who's just amazing and able to put it together in his head and jam it out quick. I don't know, actually. I mean, I can't complain. I mean, I really like Badlands and what it's doing for me, and as well as, it's gotten me other jobs on Tomb Raider and all that kind of stuff as well. But it's interesting. Like I don't really look. I have built a 20-year career in Asia, and I'm looking at this career now in the States as something very different. It's almost like an extension of that career, And in some ways it runs parallel in that I'm trying to do the same thing as well, as not to be pigeonholed as just a martial arts actor, but to try and do other things. So Tomb Raider is interesting because they hire me on and it's not an action role at all. It's a strictly dramatic role. So I'll be able to prove that in that. I just did a movie, Geostorm, where I play a totally different character than Sunny. That's going to be out in October. So it's going. Will it be the same as in Asia? I don't know. Like, will I be able to be a leading man to lead films here? I don't know. I mean, it's still a very undiverse America at this moment. So we'll see. But I'm very happy now with the projects I've been working on, but I always have my Asia career, which I'll never forget. I mean, I think everything I have now today is because of my Hong Kong career, and I owe everything to that. And so it's not something I'll ever give up. Hong Kong films are special to me. I've always been a Hong Kong movie fan, so being able to work in Hong Kong films has been, you know, a dream come true. And then now working with the high-level people that I work with, like recently working with Ringo Lam and all these people, it's amazing. And I think we're the best at making movies, honestly. Like, having been around the world and seeing how other people work, other different cultures work, I think Hong Kong is a mix of the best. We work really fast, we do high quality, and we don't waste money. I see a lot of money wasted on big American productions. As a producer, I look at that and I go, this is horrible, you know? And we're able to do equal amount of, especially nowadays with CGI work and all that stuff, we're able to do equal level work now with a lot lower budgets. And why is that? I'm not sure, but I think we're more efficient. And I just like working in more efficient systems. I have mixed feelings about it. I do believe that there are opportunities for global movies to be successful globally, but I don't think every movie can be. And especially when you're talking about two completely different cultures and trying to mix it together. I mean, you can do that every once in a while. You know, you've had, like, let's say Black Rain way back in the day, right? Where you're able to successfully do...
Oh, the 80s one?
Yeah, Japanese culture with American culture. I think that was a great movie. I really liked that movie. With the sort of American cop culture, with this Yakuza culture. But that was once in the 80s, right? Then you have maybe one in the 90s and whatever. But they're trying to do it like every single movie doing it that way. And that's, I don't know if that's totally viable or not. I understand that, you know, financially it makes the most sense to have a globally successful movie, but other products you can do that, like an iPhone you can sell globally around the world or whatever, but movies are tied into a culture. You know, the culture of the place. And it just so happens that American movies are global culture, but I don't know if Asian movies are global culture yet. So it doesn't work necessarily both ways. We'll have to see. I think there are some people that can be successful at it and some not. What it would take is savvy, smart directors and producers that have experience in both places or understand both cultures to do it. Maybe someone like me in the future, but really someone that understands both cultures instead of going, okay, how do we make this more Asian or how do we make this more Western? No, you have to organically do it from the very beginning. You know, it has to be a subject or a topic that lends itself to being really global, and instead of forcing it in or shoehorning it in. But at the same, I'm not complaining because, hey, that's probably why I'm in Tomb Raider and I'm getting paid for that, so I'm not going to complain about it, you know. And it gave me a great opportunity to show it's a role that could have been a really stereotyped, you know, Asian accented role who's, you know, passive to the main character, but I'm not at all, and it's a great character. And so, you know, I'm taking those opportunities and trying to twist it my way and make it work for, because I'm in a unique position too. I'm very Asian. I'm not your typical Asian American that grew up here and only knows Asian American culture. I lived in Hong Kong for 20 years and I feel more Chinese now than I've ever felt in my life, you know. And so I'm in a really weird position that way, in that I'm not really of any culture anymore, you know, because I'm not fully, let's say, accepted into Asian culture because I was born in the States. I'm not fully accepted into American mainstream culture because I'm Asian, right? And then Asian American culture is very different as well. Like, I'm kind of like all over it. And then now I'm filming this movie in Africa where I have a home there. You know, I don't care now. It's like I'm just a person in this world. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Yeah, it's very angry, isn't it? I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's great to do stories for us, by us, or whatever, but you have to realize that that's a niche market. You know, it's a very small market. We're only 5% of the population of this country, right? So if you want to have higher success, you got to start doing stuff that is more mainstream. And I think there are ways to do that. There are ways to incorporate that, but what I do have a problem with is the complaints about stuff, like constantly whining about your situation. Just do it, man. Stop whining. Like, I can't stand it. Since I was in college when Yellow came out, that movie, right? Till now, like, people saying the same crap they've been saying for 20 years. Just forget it. Just do what you want to do and go do it. And forget about what the man is doing to you or whatever. Just do what you want to do. And there's so many opportunities now, especially with digital cameras and the internet and all that stuff, to get yourself out there, to get your work out there, whether it's Asian American themed or not Asian American themed. There's so many more outlets there. So there's nobody holding you back except your own ego or your own psyche. So get rid of all that crap and just go do what you want to do. You know? No, it's not really. It's not. It's the same. You know, it's interesting because I remember, like, when I was in college, we had an Asian American Student Union. We had a speaker come over to talk about Asian American art and Asian American artists and how they should be doing gallery exhibits for Asian Americans and blah blah blah. And I raised this one question. I go, well, if I was an Asian American artist, I want to be respected as an artist, not just an Asian American artist. I mean, it's good to have that also, but you want to be recognized on a global scale, on a bigger scale, right? And so when I said that, everyone looked at me like I was an asshole, right? I was like, but no, I mean, I was studying architecture at the time. I don't want to be just a Chinese architect. I want to be a great architect. I don't want to be a great Chinese architect. You know, I want to be I don't think Denzel Washington walks around going, I want to be a great black actor. No, he wants to be a great actor, and he's a great actor, and that's it. That's how he is. So we can complain all we want, but you just got to do it, like Denzel or somebody like that. Just do it, lead by example, and make the rest of the world that's not coming along change because of what your actions are. I mean, it's like Gandhi says: if you want to see the world change, you got to be that change. What's the exact quote? It's like, you have to be the change you want to see in the world, right? And if you just sit around and complain and whine and blah blah blah, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Cool. I'm getting cut off here.
Okay.
The person. So
okay. Cool.
I guess that's a nice negative, good way to end. Or positive. I don't know. I don't know if it's negative or positive, but I think I think it ended barely positive. But
look, I'm coming from a perspective who spent my career 20 years in Asia because I couldn't have never had a career here in the States. I'd probably still be going to audition sessions in the room with 20 guys that look not exactly like me, same color skin, same color hair, to this day, right? And so I was embraced by my own culture in Hong Kong, and I was lucky that I had that opportunity. But it allowed me to look at it as a bigger picture and not this tiny little Asian American niche thing, you know.